Hi everybody, here is your 5th training video. You've been assigned a news story. Now what? You may be a little bit nervous about it, so let's start by explaining what is a news story. How does it differ from, say, an opinion story, a sports story? So here are the features. First of all, it deals with breaking news and or hard news. So breaking news is something that's happening right now. So for example, if the fire alarm is pulled in one of the buildings and we have an evacuation, that's something that's happening right now and we possibly want to cover it. Excuse me. Hard news are things like murders, robberies, disasters. It also can be things like dealing with budgets. So when we find out that we have classes cut, or the school has gotten more money, or we're doing a bond issue, something like that, that's all hard news. And when we get to the other types of stories, you'll learn about, features and sports and opinions and that kind of stuff. But that's what's covered by news. They are stories that typically ask you to include the 5 W's and the H. The who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. So you'll be covering that in a news story. Leave your opinion out of these stories. You can get other people's opinions, though, and in fact you should. So your opinion should be transparent. We shouldn't know exactly what you think on any particular issue that you're writing a news story about. But we certainly want to hear from other people, experts, authorities, and reaction from just the person on the street. So definitely do give expertise and opinion from other people. Get multiple perspectives. Even if it's something that's, like a robbery or something like that, there may be additional perspectives. That's not to suggest that every perspective gets, 50-50 floor time in your article. I've totally mixed metaphors there. But what I'm saying is, sometimes wrongdoing is wrongdoing, and we don't want to say, this robbery happened. On the other hand, maybe it's not such a bad thing. That's obviously just stupid. But it might be this robbery happened, and people think it's because the security in the building is not tight enough. Then you want to get somebody else's perspective saying, no, it is. Or, yeah, you're right, but it's too expensive to get another system. So that's what I mean by multiple perspectives. And sometimes there's more than just 2 perspectives on something. Get a clear angle, though. So once you've talked to everybody and you've talked to your editor, there probably is going to be something about the piece that you're not promoting exactly, but most strongly putting forth. So you want to have in your story, high up and throughout the story, something that is the most salient or important element of the story. So for example, going back to a robbery on campus, or a theft on campus rather. If it turned out that our security systems on campus were just super weak and could be dismantled, that would probably be the angle that you're pursuing through this, even as you talk to other people about other perspectives. I want to talk to you now about, that's what a news story is, essentially. How to start. So you'll be assigned a story by your editor, and then that editor should help you out with the angle of the story, although that angle may change as you go along and interview people. The editor should also help you with finding your initial sources. Once you've gotten your sources, though, you can brainstorm other people you might talk to. And when you actually do talk to your sources, ask them who else you should speak with, because they'll give you another idea. And you can even ask them who will disagree with you, because those sources could provide you with another perspective. I really want to encourage you, once you decide who you want to interview, contact those people soon. They're probably really busy, and you need to give them enough time to schedule an appointment with you.
I love you.
I love you too. Sorry, my daughter came to the door. Okay, so contact your sources early. When you do contact them, identify yourself as a reporter. You have to say who you are, what publication you're working for, and that you're working on a story about whatever the topic is. That gives them a chance to know that everything they're saying is on the record unless they tell you otherwise. And it gives them a chance to, if they really don't want to talk to a reporter, to say no. So you have to be upfront. That's the ethical thing to do. All right. Now, then, once you set up those appointments, go interview them and ask them a whole bunch of questions, and we'll get into better interviewing perhaps in another training video. But do your interviews. And I would encourage you to write as you go. In your notepad, if you hear a really good key quote, put a star by it so that you can say to yourself, that's something I really want to use in my article. You may start to develop a sense of what your lead is going to be. So start jotting that down as well.
Got it.
All right, now you're ready to write your draft. Write a summary lead, write a follow-up paragraph that fleshes out that summary lead, and then in the third paragraph, this is not a rule, but you might consider bringing in a quote from an expert or authority on the topic. And then as you go along developing the story, don't forget to bring in that other side, that other perspective, and include quotes from them as well. It doesn't have to be 50-50 in terms of the space in your article, but give the other side or other perspective a chance to get in there too. Now get some reaction quotes as you go down further. Reaction quotes or quotes that offer some color or gifts to your reader. And this is what I mean by that. You can get some quotes from students that have perhaps been affected by the price of books. You can get stories from people who've been affected by something. So if there's flooding on campus and a lot of faculty offices, okay, if a lot of faculty members have had their offices flooded, go talk to them. Get examples and anecdotes from them. Now, no cheerleader endings. You don't want to be like, but it's all going to be okay in the end, or come on down and see this show, or whatever. You don't want any cheerleader rah-rah endings. However, end with a kicker. End with a quote that you've done, that is a quote from somebody who gives some oomph, or perhaps a look at what's going to happen in the future.
What?
Hold on just a second. Okay, for more tips, I'll put in a link to the Dirty Dozen handout, which is a great way to organize just your basic news story. And I'll also put a link, if it's still working, to a site that covers the Dirty Dozen handout. And it kind of follows what I just said here. Pitfalls. After you've written your draft, you're going to submit it through probably Kamiak and work with your editor. He or she will help you identify areas that need revision or how to fix any pitfalls. So some examples of things you might run into are no news leads, where you haven't actually said the news in the lead. You haven't given the actual goods to the reader. Sometimes new writers will miss the lead and they'll bury it deeper in the story, so an editor can help you figure out what that true lead or angle is and bring it to the forefront. Gross factual errors, GFEs. We don't want any inaccuracies in your piece, and your editor can help you identify areas where you might be creating GFEs. And then finally, a lack of clarity. If you find that somebody is telling you, a source is telling you something really complicated, don't just write it into your article. You have to, if you don't understand it, your readers aren't going to understand it. So if there's a lack of clarity, go back and say, explain that to me again as if I'm 5 or whatever. Give me an example, and that will help clear that type of thing up. You also want to start paying attention to formatting and AP style issues. This means quotes get their own paragraphs. Just use said. Don't say, exclaimed or smiled. In news stories, we predominantly use said. You might occasionally say commented or some other source of attribution, but most of the time it's just going to be said, and that's totally okay. Paragraphs should be 1 to 3 sentences long, max. After that, hit return. You need to build in white space. On the web or in the skinny little columns in the newspaper, it's just too text heavy if you don't build in some white space. The lead paragraph should be 1 sentence long. Your summary lead is typically 1 sentence. Learn AP style for the following: numbers, ages, addresses, titles, and dates. And actually that should say addresses, but at any rate. Okay, good luck.